This is Mississippi State Senator Chris McDaniel, and if he gets his way, critical race theory will be banned from being taught in the state, which rarely happens anyway, but we'll get to that in a second. Critical race theory is the concept of seeking to understand and address inequality and racism in the United States.
The framework of CRT.
McDaniel recently co-authored Senate Bill 2113, which says no school shall direct or compel students to affirm that any sex, race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin is inherently superior, or that individuals should be adversely treated based on such characteristics. McDaniel says critical race theory is the belief that American society is inherently racist, and it has no place in Mississippi's public schools, including universities and community colleges.
Systematic racism should not be taught to our children.
Last month on the Senate floor, McDaniel and his co-author argued for the legislation and watched as black lawmakers walked out in protest before the vote. It passed 32-2 and now goes to the House chamber.
If you'll look at the plain language, and again, I have to go back to that, it clearly states that we won't allow people to be taught their inferior. We won't allow our classrooms to teach the superiority of a race or whatever the case may be.
I thought the whole class would be like criticizing white people, but we didn't really even mention white people.
Republican law student Brittany Murphy believes Senator McDaniel and his colleagues may not understand what they're talking about. Admittedly, she says she didn't either until this semester, when the second-year law student at the University of Mississippi enrolled in Law 743. It's actually the only class in the state that teaches critical race theory, according to the university. Murphy says her own conservative friends and family discouraged her from taking the elective, worried that as one of only a handful of white students enrolled, she would be made to feel guilty about being white.
Has this made you feel white-guilt?
No, not at all.
What has it made you feel?
Empowered to change the Republican Party.
It's the reason why the 27-year-old wrote this letter to the Mississippi House Education Committee, asking Republicans to reconsider their legislation. The class, she says, takes a critical view of decisions of civil rights advocates who are mostly black, not white people. To date, this has been the most impactful and enlightening course I've taken throughout my entire undergraduate and graduate education, she writes. Not only has this course furthered my understanding of race and the law, but the prohibition of courses and teachings such as these is taking away the opportunity for people from every background and race to come together and discuss very important topics which would otherwise go undiscussed.
It's just like any other theory-based class that would take in law school. Like, I don't want people to think that it's like this completely different class than all the other classes we're taking. It's just a normal class. And this is academic freedom, and people are taking it away from me.
Critical race theory has been around since the 1980s. The spokesperson for Ole Miss says it's been taught here for over 10 years. Assistant Professor Yvette Butler, who teaches the class now, says the focus that's been placed on CRT is a direct backlash to the perceived racial reckoning in the U.S. after the summer of 2020.
We're not focused on things like guilt and shame. My focus as a legal educator is to get them to think like lawyers. And in order to be an effective lawyer, you have to be able to think critically. You have to be able to consider multiple sides of an issue.
Senator McDaniel disagrees. He says CRT doesn't make better lawyers, but rather teaches them victimhood and blame. But while the title of his bill is critical race theory, the main text does not define what it is.
And when you hear students say that this limits their academic freedom?
It doesn't. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. We're not talking about censoring books or censoring thoughts or ideas. She's perfectly able to continue her course of study the same way many of us do, outside of the presence of a professor, or better said, outside of taxpayers having to subsidize the message.
So, Nick, is the bill expected to pass as is, and when could it go into effect?
Well, right now it's in the hands of the Mississippi House, and they have until March to vote on it. And according to Senator McDaniel, he believes that the bill will pass with minimal changes, though he adds, John, that he's been wrong before. And look, we've spoken to a lot of educators here in Mississippi, especially at the university. They say it would be a disservice to Mississippians if CRT is banned from the state. They point to the fact that it's already being taught across the country, which would put Mississippi lawyers, future lawyers here in the state, at a disadvantage to not have similar education. John?
Nick Valenti, interesting perspective. Thank you so much.